ahead and drill on my land, or somebody makes a deal with a driver, Uber, Lyft, cab companies, whatever, or a deal with a store. If they do all that, that's liberty of contract. That's liberty of contract. And property owners ought to be willing to do that. Or individual people ought to be willing to do that. Now, I'm also going to say this. When it comes to fracking, I know there are a lot of questions about that. There are a lot of studies which have been done, and the politics fall in there. And the politics, every study is political, unfortunately. Now, if I owned, and I'll say this, I think that it makes sense to not put wells too close to each other, especially if you're on a fault line. It makes sense to not put wells too close to each other. But that's just me. I think that it also makes sense not to put the wells really, really close to a house. But that's just me. There's a lot of common sense that needs to be thought about, which I don't think people do. So, in all honesty, what needs to be done is people need to use common sense. People need to think. People need to be smart about it. And honestly, if somebody wants a gas company to drill on their land, and it's on their land and not on anybody else's land, I don't disagree with it. I think they should. Vicky just brought up the 15 earthquakes that hit the DFW area this week. I felt 2 of them. Those were very interesting. The problem is, by the way, is that the ones who want to say that it's wastewater disposal wells, which are a part of fracking, and blame those, there are no wastewater disposal wells in Irving. They're all out of the way. So who knows what caused them? It may not be fracking. I saw a graphic, and I have not researched it. So do not take this as the gospel truth, because I'm not sure it is. But I did see a graphic out there which said that earthquakes occasionally hit Texas, and series of earthquakes will hit Texas, and it allegedly was a historical graphic of where earthquakes were in the state of Texas. If that's possible, and there is a fault line in by Texas Stadium, if that's true, then that could be why that's happening. It could have nothing to do with drilling. It could have everything to do with the fact that, fault lines happen. The earth moves. So, people don't need to overreact to this. And I think when people overreact is when you see bad legislation happen. Now, how does this tie into the fact that all politics are local? Here's why. If you really want to affect change from a national level, you need to affect change from a local level. And what that means, and this is the part where people really need to realize this, what that means is at a county level and a city level, you get freedom-loving candidates elected. First, note what I said. From a city level and a county level, you get those leaders elected first. Because then you don't run into a situation where Greg Abbott is talking about Texas being Californiaized. He's absolutely right. And those local leaders can become the next state leaders. Can become the next state leaders. I'll give you an example of someone, she of the pink sneakers, was originally a city council person, who then became a state senator, who then tried and thankfully failed to run for Texas governor. Another example of this, Annise Parker, the current mayor of Houston, is probably going to run for governor at some point. Or she might choose to run for state senator or another statewide position and then run for governor. Rick Perry was a state senator. Rick Perry then became agriculture commissioner and then became, as my cat does something weird in the background, then became lieutenant governor and then became governor. And now he's going to run for president. Whoop-de-doo. I would like to point out to the folks in the chat room who are complaining about the fact that I mentioned she of the pink sneakers. That, yes, but she of the pink sneakers says she's going to run again. I'd like to point out that I haven't even mentioned her name. Just pointing that out. On the another Republican side, Calvin Coolidge started off as a mayor. Actually, he was a city council person first, I think. Then he was the mayor of Boston. Or he was a state senator, then he was the mayor of Boston. Then he was the governor of Massachusetts. Then he became the vice president, and then he became the president. All politics is local, folks. That's what people need to remember, is that all politics is local. And if you want to affect change on the national level and get someone like John Boehner out of office, you have to get enough Justin Amashas, Thomas Masseys, Louis Gohmerts, etc., 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 elected. If you want to keep things like the Texas or the Dallas bag ban from happening, or the idiotic Uber regulations in San Antonio, get freedom-loving people elected from the local level. And not only that, hold them accountable. If I didn't say hold them accountable, I think Fishy would throw a fit. Now, we are going to take a longer break than normal because we're going to get everybody set up. We're going to get everybody set up for next hour where we discuss police policy. And I'm looking forward to this. Free Radical Network invades, as well as antiwar.com. And Lucy, if you're listening, I do find it ironic that I used invades with antiwar.com. Lucy Steigerwald from antiwar.com will be here. Peter Ream from Free Radical Network. George Templeton. And Stephen Glaug, all from Free Radical Network, will all be here. So we're going to take a break. We will be back in about 5 minutes or so. Right here on Saturday Night Cigar Lounge here on Vigilant Liberty Radio. Back after this.
A progressive woman once told me that if she was my wife, she'd poison my coffee. I told her if I was her husband, I'd drink it. This is Alan Bordius, host of Their Finest Hour, Monday nights here on Vigilant Liberty Radio.
Mr. President, members of Congress, you've been making a lot of noise about taking our guns away. But you might want to review history. 1835, Gonzales, Texas Territory. The authorities wanted to confiscate the big gun that protected that colony. You know what the people said? Come and take it. Because they were willing to fight for their freedom and their guns. So are we.
Come and take it if you want it. Come and take it if you think you can. Come and take it, but I warn you, you'll have to pry it from my cold dead hands. We want the freedom that God gave us, so you best not cross that line. If you want this gun, you gotta come through us and take it.
One shot at a time. Just like Gonzales, we're keeping our guns.
Hi, this is Jason Dibbler, co-host of Q with a View, heard every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on FTR Radio. Right now, FTR needs your help in making the jump into the 21st century through some long-needed equipment upgrades. This is where you, the great and loyal listeners of Great Conservative Talk Radio, can really lend a hand. Visit GoFundMe.com/helpupgradeFTR right now. Your assistance, no matter how small, will help to ensure that FTR can continue to offer some of the best conservative radio on the interwebs. Your donation of $50 gets you up to 60 seconds of airtime on FTR radio 4 times. For $100, your ad will run 10 times, or if you don't want to run an ad, you can have 30 minutes of FTR airtime to talk about anything you want. There are other thank yous for other levels of giving as well, but those are some pretty great offers. We hope you'll consider making a small donation to help keep quality conservative talk radio alive and thriving on the internet. Visit GoFundMe.com/helpupgradeFTR today. Thank you.
This is Chuck Dixon, the co-creator of Bane, and you're listening to Vigilant Liberty Radio.
Hi, this is Matt Lewis from the Daily Caller, and you are listening to Vigilant Liberty Radio.
This is Kevin Jackson of the Black Spreaker Radio Show. Listen to Vigilant Liberty Radio.
Welcome to the Saturday Night Cigar Lounge on Vigilant Liberty Radio.